Now, though, let's return to events at the Labour Party conference. Gordon Brown giving his speech today. We can talk to Peter Kellner, president of the internet pollster YouGov. He joins us from Brighton now. Thanks for joining us. Well, it was billed as a make or break speech, which these speeches so often are billed as. How do you think he did?
I thought it was a rather good speech. Fans of the American drama series The West Wing will remember an episode where they're wondering how to present President Bartlett to the American nation, and his chief of staff eventually says, it's simple, let Bartlett be Bartlett. Today, they let Gordon be Gordon. I thought this was the authentic Gordon Brown, the son of the manse, the man passionate for social justice. And I thought that came through, and I thought, frankly, that was quite effective.
You reminded me of that advertising campaign, Not Flash, Just Gordon. It didn't really work, did it? I mean, is him being just Gordon enough to win around the public when you look at fairly catastrophic poll ratings for him?
That's obviously right. It worked at the time, the Not Flash, Just Gordon, and then it went off the board. This is clearly the problem. I mean, one speech isn't going to do it. We at YouGov did a poll, I have to say, for Sky News just after his speech, which found that people who watched his speech at home on television were pretty impressed by it, and their view of Gordon Brown had gone up since the weekend, since we last questioned them. I don't know how long it'll last. There has to be follow-through, and if the strategy is going to be let Gordon be Gordon, it's a strategy not just for an afternoon, it's a strategy for the next 6 to 8 months for the election, and then we'll see how effective it is.
Yes, I mean, how long does the post-conference bounce last for? Because I think the most recent poll today, Ipsos Mori, has put Labour in third place behind the Tories, which is the first time that particular... Sorry, correct me if you want.
No, that's not the latest poll. It was the last to come out, but it's actually conducted last week, just after Nick Clegg's speech. We at YouGov have done YouGov have done three national surveys since then. It was pretty close between Labour and the Liberal Democrats last Thursday for about a day and a half. Labour has now recovered the ground it lost to the Liberal Democrats. The Liberal Democrats have subsided. But your main point is right. There was a Lib Dem bounce last week. It lasted for about 48 hours. It's now gone away. Tomorrow I would expect there to be a Brown bounce benefiting Labour in our daily opinion polls. The two questions are, how big will it be and how long will it last? Those are the things that really matter. If it's just a 24-hour wonder or a 48-hour wonder, it won't do the Prime Minister any good. He needs it to last.
Peter Kellner, thank you.
Well, what about the speech itself? Graham Davies is a speechwriter and presentation coach. He's been watching Gordon Brown's performance in Brighton. He joins us from our Westminster studio. What did you make of the speech technically?
Well, I have to say he was more upbeat, energetic and engaging than I've ever seen him before. By his standards, this wasn't just a speech, it was a cabaret. He even told a couple of gags really rather well. He smiled, something which he has traditionally found to be rather difficult and frightening. And actually, there was a real danger that he even enjoyed himself up there. But
it didn't have the theatricality, for example, of Peter Mandelson, did it? And it didn't have that sort of vaudeville quality that Mandelson brought to the stage.
Well, perhaps we're all sighing with relief at that. He had to have a tone, a combative tone, something that said, "My name's Gordon. I am prepared to have a go because I am hard enough." So he had to be as aggressive as he could. But I think one of the things that he missed was to make that aggressive tone a bit more realistic, because he missed an opportunity to actually look the camera in the eye and say to David Cameron, "I will take you on anywhere, in any televised debate, any studio, you name the time." But he simply didn't have the bottle to do that, which I think is a shame from Brown's point of view.
Well, we don't know quite what's going to happen on that front, but you as a presentation coach, I mean, presumably you come across some people who are absolutely hopeless cases and, you know, you can't do very much with them. Just in terms of his own natural ability, I mean, has Gordon Brown got problems which have been overcome, or is there real flair there, do you think, naturally?
This was as good as the Gordon Brown DNA can get. He has a certain problem with a level of attack that he always has to stick with. Every single phrase is always said as importantly as the phrase before. He does tend to be rather one-paced. Also, he had an interesting tendency, which he's always had in his speeches, always to look to the left for about 80% of the time and only to the right 20% of the time, which is perhaps a metaphor for his entire political career.
Well, it could be something to do with the fact that he's lost the sight in one eye.
I think it might be, but on the other hand, he does use very large print on the lectern in front of him. He does use that extremely effectively. And if you notice, actually he was looking down relatively rarely, only at times when it was appropriate to look down in gaps for applause. He actually had an awful lot of that speech committed to memory, and he used that memory extremely effectively.
OK, Graham Davies, thanks very much for joining us.